What is up, Planeswalkers? Theric6 back with some more Magic the Gathering, not Arena, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Be sure to head over to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10, which is a good deal, and it helps support the channel. Now, I hope that you can use that Flipside Gaming little bonus there to start building some EDH decks. Now, EDH is a format that I really love. And so one of the main reasons I actually decided to get this webcam is not just for the face cam, but a decent number of people do seem to enjoy it. It's actually so that I can kind of revisit my roots and start doing IRL deck techs for things like Modern Legacy and predominantly EDH, because I love the format. Hopefully, some of you guys will check out the EDH format, or even if you're kind of shy because of the just sheer amount of cards that you have access to in that format, that you at least check out Brawl. And I really do hope Wizards brings Brawl to Arena, because I do think that Brawl will be kind of a stepping stone for a lot of people getting into EDH. And I think that EDH, or Commander as Wizards calls it, is a fantastic format. Now, it's a singleton format that is based around a single legendary creature that you essentially always have access to, or a specified planeswalkers. And the EDH rules, it's a little bit different, but still. Our deck today that I'm showing off is a 5-color Cromat deck that is a Superfriends deck. So this deck plans on getting as many planeswalkers out as possible and just winning in the wackiest of ways. Now, Cromat itself is not something that I typically play, simply because of the fact that usually we're going to have other things to do with our mana. That said, Cromat is still a decent card to play out. A lot of people you'll see play like Progenitus or Child of Valar because they do extra things. I don't care. Cromat does all of the extra things. It's a nice way to just destroy things your opponents have, and for what it's worth, if you are able to dump 2 Boroses, so red, white, it becomes a 7/7, and if you add that Izzet mana, it becomes a flyer, so you're going to have a decent chance of being able to just 3-shot an opponent, and that's very helpful. It also has some nice evasive abilities, being able to dodge removal with the Regenerate clause, and being able to dodge things like exile effects by putting it back on top of your library. I do wish that it put it into your hand, but it doesn't, and that's fine. And one thing I do want to say before we get started talking about the 25 planeswalkers that are in the deck is I will be mentioning something called immediate doubling season. So when I mean that, their entering loyalty will be at a point where they can immediately ultimate. So when I say something like, well, I'll talk about it with Angrath, but when I say something along the lines of this is an immediate doubling season, it means that they're going to immediately be able to use their ultimate. And doubling season, for those of you who don't know, is whenever a counter would be placed on a permanent, I believe it's just permanent, it might be or player, put twice that number onto that permanent, or I think it does say or player instead. So that is something I should get through. And I'm not going to talk about each and every ability on all of these planeswalkers. I'm just going to mention kind of the most important, impactful pieces of them. So Ajani Unyielding is very nice because its +2 can very easily read draw 3 cards, essentially. And the reason for that is, although we are running 37 lands, we are only running 14 instant sorceries. So the number of non-land permanents that we are running is relatively low. Usually you're going to get at least 1 choice of card from Ajani, if not 2. I think 2 is what I regularly get, whereas it's usually like a land, an enchantment, and a planeswalker, right? That's what I usually get, and that's very nice. Its -2 is just Sword Supply Shares, which is always great. A repeatable swords is really nice. And its -9, for what it's worth, it can lead to some cool ultimate shenanigans, but it's not something I really go for, especially since it is not at doubling season immediate. Angrath, on the other hand, is doubling season immediate. That said, he's not very powerful with doubling season, just because it really is dependent on what exactly your opponent's strategy is, if they're going to be working towards the graveyard, or if your opponent is just at a different point in the game where they just don't have that many cards in exile, or in the graveyard, I should say. Its +1, though, is fantastic, and the reason for this is because it affects all of your opponents. So if you're playing a 4-player game, which is typically what occurs, then you're going to be able to have each of your opponents discard a card and lose to life, which is helpful, but not necessary. And you're functionally +3, because each of your individual opponents are now -1 each, which gives you a functional +3. Its -3 is not going to be great. It does get rid of some pesky special creatures. For example, it will get rid of something like Jace, the baby Jace that starts out as a creature. It'll get rid of just random small cards that maybe are time walks on creatures, things like that. But for the most part, it is going to be used to get rid of a very specific creature that kind of is helping along an entire game plan. So if your opponent is running something like Elesh Norn in a token strategy, you can steal that Elesh Norn and pretty much destroy their board, which is very nice. Elspeth Knight Errant is another one of those doubling season ready planeswalkers, and she is one that you really want to have with doubling season, because then it makes it so that pretty much all of your stuff is indestructible. Now, of course, you don't have very many creatures, but the ability to just have all of your creature tokens, all of your artifacts, lands, enchantments, become indestructible is really great, especially because we are technically running a single mass land destruction card. That is technically a way to win, is you ultimate Elspeth and then blow up everyone's lands. People will not like you, but it's something you can do. Now, her +1, the first +1 I should say, is what you're typically going to do, especially if you have Doubling Season, because then you get 2 1/1 white soldiers instead of just one. But you can use the second +1 ability to get over some extra damage or kill a planeswalker that your opponents have. Now, Elspeth, Sun's Champion, is not only Doubling Season immediate, but she even sticks around, which is fantastic. She does give your creatures a buff, and I should say that there aren't technically a large number of creatures in the deck, even when you consider the amount of creatures tokens that your planeswalkers create. But just having that ability is very nice. Being able to destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater is very nice in a deck that doesn't run very many creatures, and whose creatures are typically going to be tokens that are about 3/3 or less, and she, of course, can +1 in order to put out a large number of tokens. Now, Garrick Apex Hunter is just one of my favorite cards in this deck. It does cost 7, but we're playing EDH, and we don't really care about how much this thing costs. It starts out with 5, so it is, you know, Doubling Season immediate. But it is only for target opponent, which is a little annoying, but if someone has really been harassing you this game, you can go ahead and make it bad for them. Make it very, very bad for them. You can also destroy another planeswalker. You can just say, hey, I'm the planeswalker deck. You get no friends. I have all the friends. Makes a 3/3 beast token with Deck Touch, which is fantastic. It's a really nice way to stave off other creatures that don't fly. And if there's a single creature that's really pesky, you just kill it and gain life. It's so, so good. Following, we have an Untainted Garrick. This is Primal Hunter. Now, it does have triple green in the cost, which is a little annoying, but it's fine. We were playing plenty of mana fixing. You get +1, a 3/3 beast. Always nice. Helps us stave off attacks. It's -3, draws cards equal to greatest power among creatures we control. Now, as I said, we don't actually run very many creatures, so we're not always going to be able to utilize this perfectly, but when we can, we're going to be drawing a bunch. And then it's -6. It is Doubling Season ready, but I don't love it because they're still like vulnerable creatures, and I'd rather just continually make beast tokens. So Giddy Jura is one of those planeswalkers that is very helpful at the control plan. You can, if your opponents look like they're going to be killing you, you can go ahead and +2 and force that specific opponent to just attack Gideon, and then if he lives, or you could do this first, you can just destroy a targeted tapped creature. For what it's worth, he can turn into a creature, but I very rarely do that. Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, he's just one of the bread and butter. I'm going to draw some more cards in this deck. Jace, Unraveler of Secrets gives you a scry into a draw, which is very nice. It gives you a bounce to your opponent's hand on a creature, which is nice. You know, an unsummon is not bad. It's a -2, which isn't great, so you don't usually use it. But what's really nice is that this is Doubling Season immediate, and it's something where it is kind of just a game ender. You're going to be able to say, all right, each of my opponents has to play 2 spells in a single turn, because it's their first turn, in order to get one to resolve, and that is crippling. Liliana Vess is another one of those Doubling Season immediate planeswalkers where you can just rise from the Dark Realms, all of your opponent's stuff, and it's really, really nice. For what it's worth, you can force one player to draw a card, but that's never what you really do. What you tend to do with Liliana Vess is you player, you -2, you either get Chain Veil or Doubling Season. If you have both of those, you get a dumb planeswalker like Bolas, any of them, and you play that on the next turn, and it's really nice. Narset Transcendent is a fantastic, another one of these just really insane Doubling Season immediate planeswalkers where your opponents just can't even cast non-creature spells. So if you have this plus Jace's Emblem, then your opponents are kind of screwed because they can only cast creatures and they have to do 2 of them a turn to get 1. And it's really messed up. Being able to +1 to look at your deck and find some non-creature non-lands is pretty easy because of the fact, as I said, we only have 7 creatures, so that's about 44 cards that she will miss on in the entire deck, so that's totally reasonable. And her -2 being able to have Spellgan Rebound is okay. It's not very great because we do have relatively few instants and sorceries, but being able to get a board wipe for 2 turns in a row is a really nice way to really stall the game out. And then, of course, we get to our Bolas section. Well, not entirely, because one of them is a creature, and of course I am playing all 3 of them. I'm not playing the, like, dual deck Bolas or whatever the heck it is, because it's not good. So, Bolas Godpharaoh is, for one, Planeswalker, or Doubling Season ready, and it survives, which is just insanity, and you exile every non-land card that your opponent has. That, right there, backbreaking on a lot of commanders. You can also deal 7 damage to an individual creature, or an opponent. This is sometimes good to finish someone off, but for the most part, you're not going to be using this that much. what you're usually going to be doing is forcing each of your opponent to exile 2 cards from their hand. So you're not even allowing them to get graveyard value out of their creatures, but they're just gone, and you're going technically up +6, and that's real nice. And of course, then you also have the +2 if you know one of your opponents is playing a super awesome deck that has like a lot of big spells and whatnot. You just +2 on them and say, all right, I'm gonna get this. Ooh, look, Insurrection. These are all mine, and I'm gonna attack you. So that is fantastic, but of course it is, because it's Nicol Bolas. Now, another Bolas is, once again, doubling season ready. The unfortunate thing is that it only targets a single player, which is, you know, not great, but still dealing 7 damage to them and having them discard and sack things is just, it's just crippling to that one player. Very good if you are in a 1v1 scenario at the end of the game, or if someone is just leagues ahead of everyone else. You know, they had like turn 1 land, Soul Ring into Signet, next turn they go like just some nonsense ramp and they start doing stupid things. You can also gain control of a creature, which is nice. It's not until end of turn. You just have it. It's yours now. And that's nice. Or you can just blow up a non-creature permanent. That includes lands, that includes planeswalkers, that includes everything but creatures, and that is just value incarnate. Nicol Bolas is great. Next up we have Nyssa. She is one of the ones that are kind of on a chopping block, and the only reason that she is really good is actually her -3 and her -6, and because her -6 is pretty easy to get to, that is why she's still in the deck. She's one of those planeswalkers that is likely going to get replaced as better and better planeswalkers come out. Her +1, not really reason to talk about at all. It does pretty much nothing. She is doubling season ready, and the fact that she would still live is nice because we can do it twice. But being able to play a land and draw some cards is fantastic, and -3 being able to get back any planeswalker or any doubling season or Chainveil, pretty much just those 2 cards, back from your graveyard is very helpful. Ob Nixilis Reignited. Very similar to Unraveler of Secrets, this is a card that is just like, I'm going to just draw cards, and that's fine, and that's the main point of Reignited. You draw cards, even though you lose some life, that's okay. You do get the ability to destroy a creature, which is fantastic, and Ob Nixilis is also doubling season ready. You're going to be able to target a single player, which is not great, but whatever. But that person, if you're in a 4-player game, is going to take 4 draws every round. That's 8 life every round. And that's not including all of the additional draws that people play. So if you really want a specific player to just go over there and die, Ob Nixilis is your guy. Next up is Ral Zarek. Ral Zarek is one of the dumb ways we can win with this deck. Essentially, with doubling season, it is doubling season ready, you can go ahead and just take extra turns. And Ral, since he's not dead, you can go ahead and keep trying to get to that -7. You, of course, could miss with this, but who cares? It's random, and it's fun. -3 to be able to ping bolt, I should say, a creature or player is nice, and being able to tap down something annoying of your opponents, while, mostly for what it's worth, untapping something like a Gilded Lotus or a Chainveil to be able to activate things in additional time is really where Ral Zarek shines. Rowan Kenrith, these are actually new additions to the deck because they both tutor each other. Will and Rowan both tutor each other, so if you play one, you get to get the next one to your hand, which is very fantastic. For what it's worth, both of them, I believe, are both double season ready, and being able to just activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, choose new targets. Now, here's the thing. Planeswalker abilities are abilities, and they're not mana abilities. So, what Rowan means is that every time you activate an ability of a Planeswalker, you get that effect. You don't get the additional loyalty, but you do get the effect twice, and that is real good. You can also force each creature of an opponent's to attack. They don't necessarily have to attack you, unlike Gideon, but you can force someone to attack. So if your opponent has something, some sort of creatures that they want to use for something, you can go ahead and force them into a weird situation where they have to use it at a suboptimal time or potentially lose it. And then -2, being able to essentially Deafening Clarion a bunch of tapped creatures is nice against super wide board states. Sorin Grim Nemesis is just a really nice card for several reasons. One is you can go ahead and immediately doubling season, and you'll still have 3 loyalty on it, which is nice. And you just get a dumb number of Vampire Knights that have lifelink. It's just a dumb number. If you're able to get this out before a bunch of people take damage, you can really easily get around 30 or so Vampire Knights, which can become stupid real fast. The -X is nice because you can go ahead and, once again, deal with individual creatures or planeswalkers, and you get the bonus of getting extra health, as well as you can just reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand, and each of your opponents lose life. So this is like a better Bob. This is a Bob that hits your opponents, not yourself. Very, very nice. Sorin Markov is the first card that I want to talk about that technically shouldn't be in the deck anymore. And the reason I say that is because technically his spot belongs to Karn Liberated. However, I used to own a Karn, and I had to sell it because I needed some extra money when I was in Philadelphia. And I don't have another one, and I can't justify spending how much it is right now on it. So I'm going to go ahead and just have it as Sorin. For what it's worth, Sorin is still good because you can just have it come down and put someone to 10. And it's hilarious. The drain is nice, but usually you have this come down and either put someone at 10, or with doubling season out, you just take someone's turn. Because you're that mean. Next up we have Tamiyo Field Researcher. Her +1 is very nice to be able to force 2 creatures to have a bit of hesitation in attacking because you'll be able to get some nice card advantage. And it says combat damage, it doesn't require to a player or anything like that, so being able to get it no matter what. You can also just tap 2 non-land permanents and force them to sleep, essentially, and that is artifacts as well, so that's nice. But she is doubling season ready, and you're going to be able to just draw 3 cards, and then for the rest of the game, you can just cast things for free. You just get an Omniscience, and that is awesome. Taming the Moon Sage is up next, and typically what you're going to be doing with this is -2ing to draw for each tapped creature an opponent controls. And usually what this is going to do is, like, your opponents have all attacked maybe 2 creatures for each other or something like that. But one person decided to attack with like 4. And you're like, okay, play Tamiyo, -2, draw 4 cards. Right. That right there is totally worth the 5 mana. However, being able to have the additional benefits otherwise are really nice. Her +1 is okay, but really her -8 is fantastic because it means that whenever something goes to your graveyard from anywhere, you just put it in your hands. And that's so nice because it means that you can continuously reuse your sorceries, your planeswalkers never die completely, and it's really nice. Teferi is Teferi's busted, and the reason for that is it's doubling season ready in a way that is just stupid. You're going to be able to get an emblem where you can activate loyalty abilities at instant speed, which means every turn, every single of your opponent's turns, you get to play a planeswalker ability. And this is doubling season ready. So if you have turn 5 doubling season, turn 6 this, even though Teferi is gone, every planeswalker you have from the rest of the game is potentially game winning. And that is very nice. The -3 is really the crux of the power of the card because you can start doing dumb things and untap Gilded Lotuses, Chain Veils, things like that, and do some really cool loops. Deseret, Artifice Master. This is another one that is kind of not terrible, but not necessarily great. And the reason it's not necessarily great is because its +1 and its 0 aren't spectacular in this specific deck. The +1 is nice because you're going to have a nice flying blocker, and the the 0 is nice because if nothing else, it is a free draw, and you do have a decent amount of artifacts total from the course of all of your planeswalkers and things like that. So you'll be able to sometimes draw 2 cards. But what it really is here for is the emblem that is, of course, doubling season ready. You're going to be able to just get any permanent card from your library and just put it on the field at the end of all of your turns, and that is just dumb. Vraska the Unseen, her +1 is not great. It is something that makes it so she stays around a little bit more, but her -3 is really what is important here. You're going to be able to play kind of the arbiter of what gets to live and die. So, if one opponent has something annoying and another opponent has something annoying, you have to get them to really fight over what gets to die first, right? So it's a nice political tool, and it's doubling season ready for its -7, where you just have assassins that can kill people. It's really cool. Vraska Relic Seeker, very similar to the other counterpart, except her +2 now is a bit better. When I say a bit better, I mean a lot better. So you can go ahead and just make 2/2 pirates with menace. Very helpful. -3, you destroy a thing and you ramp. Really good. And of course it's -10, which is doubling season ready, is just one player that you really are annoyed with. They just go to 1. Just get out of my face. You're at 1 now. Oh, the red player is playing some amount of burn. Don't know why, but you're dead now. Will Kenrith, I believe, is the last planeswalker. It looks like it. Yep. Will Kenrith, like his twin, I call them Jamie and Cersei for obvious reasons, is doubling season ready. Just like many of our planeswalkers. And whenever you cast an instant sorcery, you copy it. For what it's worth, it does say target player, so you can choose someone else. Don't ever do that. You get to choose a new copy. For what it's worth, we don't have a ton of instant sorceries that we can get a lot of benefit out of it, but we really play it essentially as like a tutor for Rowan, and his other abilities aren't terrible. You're going to be able to force 2 creatures to become pretty much garbage, and you can just keep doing that because it's until your next turn, as well as being able to draw 2 cards and have your creatures and, your instant sorceries and planeswalkers your next turn cost 2 less, which is very helpful. If you play this and then minus 2 it, then next turn you can play Rowan for 4 and you know, a different plane. Like if you played another land, you can play a 5-mana Planeswalker for 3. So that's very nice. Of course, now we go to Arena Rector. These are our creatures, and we have 7. Arena Rector is... You try to get her to die, like, constantly, and then you just get a Planeswalker, and you put it on the battlefield, and you just get whatever you want, and it's nice, and it's stupid. Action Rider is a fantastic way to just keep exiling stuff. It exiles, which is fantastic. It's a flying blocker, for what it's worth, but what it really does is it dies, and it total exiles 2 permanents, which is nice. Atraxa, Praetor's Voice. Now, many people run Atraxa as their main commander, and the reason I'm not doing that, essentially, is because I don't want to. I like Cromat. Don't at me. Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink, excuse me, for a 4-mana 4/4 is really dope, but at the beginning of your end step, proliferate. All of your Planeswalkers get an additional loyalty counter. Ooh, that's just so nice not to pass up, or to pass up, whatever. Deep Blow Skate, very similar to Doubling Season, except it is reactive or retroactive or whatever. So, you know, when your Planeswalkers are on the field, you can go ahead and play this out, and you just double. You just double them. And it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to say. It's a terrible body, but it just doubles your counters, which is real nice. Maelstrom Wanderer, it cascades twice, and it costs 8. The majority of our Planeswalkers are got by this. It's real good. It's also a 7/5. And then, of course, we have Nikki B. This is the other Bolas Planeswalker that we're running. The discard is nice because it's each opponent discards, but the real meat, the real juice, is the fact that when you flip it, you just draw 2 cards, which is great. You can deal damage to a creature or a Planeswalker. You can get a Planeswalker back from any graveyard, which is nice, or a creature, for what it's worth. But you can just buy back another Planeswalker, maybe a different Bolas that has already died, perhaps. And then it's -12, which, since this does exile first, it's -12, which is Doubling Season ready. Just exiles all but the last card out of one person's library. So it's like, if you're playing a combo deck, have fun. Next up, we have Solemn Simulacrum. This is just kind of a staple card in a lot of EDH decks because it is valuable ramp that is colorless and it's nice. And if it dies, you can draw a card. It's helpful. It's one of those really helpful cards. And it's a nice transition into our artifacts. And our artifacts, we have 6 of them. We have Chromatic Lantern, which helps us to maintain our nice mana abilities. We have Contagion Engine because it proliferates twice. So you're going to go ahead and put a -1/-1 counter on an entire player's board. So if they're going super wide, you can go ahead and say no to all of that. Then you tap 4. Just 4 mana to proliferate twice. It's so good. It's so good. And I love it. Gilded Lotus. Not my favorite art, but still, I don't have the new one. Don't at me. It just adds 3 mana of any one color, and it's just a nice way to ramp into your larger, maybe Bolas-type Planeswalkers. Rings of Bright Hearth is a fantastic way to double up your Planeswalker's abilities, and for what it's worth, it is not once per turn, so you can do this for as much mana you want and as much Planeswalkers you have. So it is once per Planeswalker because you can only activate those once a turn, but it's not once per turn for the rings, which is very helpful. Sensi's Divining Top. Sometimes we just need to dig deep and we need to look and make sure our plays are good. We are essentially a control deck, so that is why we're running this. The Chain Veil. Ooh, spooky. And this first ability is pretty much non-existent. You are almost never going to take more than maybe 4 in an entire game. Maybe 4. And the real kick of this card is that you tap it, and for each Planeswalker you have, you can activate its loyalty abilities again. It's so stupid. You can, if you're close to ulting, you can +1 or plus whatever, tap this, and then activate the ultimate. It's so good. It's so good. Now, I do want to talk about the very obvious card that is absent, Sol Ring. I'm probably going to make an entire rant video about this card at some point, but essentially, I believe Sol Ring is detrimental to EDH games. I think it causes less fun than it adds. And the main reason for this is because it is, in a 4-player game, for example, it is a detriment to anyone who does or does not have it. So, for example, if one player has it in a 4-player game, that person immediately becomes the target because they have such a mana advantage. If 2 people have it, it's functionally then a kind of a 1v1 game with 2 people are just spectating. If 3 people have it, then one person is functionally not playing the game. Now, of course, this isn't always true, and it usually does need to be in the first, 3 turns, but it's just something that I think is not necessary, and it just adds to the number of cards that are like auto-includes into a number of decks. So for the play group that I have with my personal best friends, we just don't play this card. Not because we have banned it, per se, but just because we don't like the not fun that it brings. Next up, we go to our instants, which are very few. We only have 3. Sylvan Reclamation. This used to be an aura shards, but the number of planeswalkers that made creature tokens went down by a lot, so we ended up changing it to Sylvan Reclamation, and it's pretty good because it also basic land cycles. And you might be saying, you're playing 5 colors. Why would you be playing basics? For this reason and many other reasons that I'll get to when I talk about my lands. But being able to just exile 2 artifacts or enchantments at instant speed is very nice. Assassin Trophy. In EDH, giving your opponent 1 more land is not nearly as important as being able to destroy literally any permanent. This can destroy specific lands, specific combo pieces at particular turns. It is a fantastic, valuable card. A lot of people don't like spot removal in EDH because of the fact that it is functionally a minus for you, just because of the fact that you're playing with other people, besides you and the target. But it is very important to be running spot removal as well as board removal. So I think that Assassin Trophy is one of those cards that just has to be in this deck. Bedevil is not technically one. You could theoretically play something like Utter End, but it's a new card and I wanted to try it out because it is, it costs 1 less than Utter End. And it does technically destroy, and it destroys fewer things, but I just wanted to give it a try because Seb McKinnon's art on this is just so good. And that, I'm going to be honest, that's pretty much the entire reason. You probably should be running Utter End instead of this, but I don't care. Onto our sorceries, we have 11 of them. We have Austere Command. This is a modal spell that gives us exactly what we want when we want. We can destroy all artifacts and enchantments if our opponents don't have a great creature board, but they have a lot of stupid combo-y shenanigans going on. We can destroy all artifacts and creatures with power 4 or greater, etc., etc. But a lot of the times what we're going to be doing is destroying 4 or greater and either all enchantments or all artifacts. And the reason for this is since our tokens are relatively small, they can handle the other relatively small creatures. But we can't usually handle the big ones, so that's why we usually do that. Catastrophe is that land destruction spell that I was talking about, and the reason I like Catastrophe is because it's not just a land destruction spell. The majority of the time, I'd say about 95% of the time, this card just destroys all creatures. But in those 5% of the times where I can immediately win the game because I still have my lands from something like an Elspeth Emblem, or I have just an absurd amount of planeswalkers on the field that my opponents just can't deal with if their lands are destroyed, as well as the more reactive time when I use it is when my opponent goes like turn 1 ramp, turn 2 ramp, turn 3 ramp, turn 4 ramp, turn 5 ramp, and they have a bunch of their lands on the field. Then I blow up their lands because you've been doing nothing for 5 turns except ramp. I'm going to show you why you probably shouldn't do that. So that is why I'm running Catastrophe, and as I said, 95% of the time this is a creature destruction spell, but sometimes you do want to blow up lands. Not always, but sometimes. Conflux is a tutor. I know it costs 8 mana, but I can get 5 planeswalkers with this. Why would I not do that? It's so good. It's so good. It's not technically good, but I don't care. I'm not optimizing a deck. I'm just playing a deck that's fun. Deploy the Gatewatch is one of those cards that I'm starting to get really iffy on because of the number of times I've kind of whiffed, or semi-whiffed. I usually get at least 1, but it seems like 25 is just not enough with the top 7, which is really unfortunate because I really like the idea of this card being able to pay 6 for way more than 6 mana worth of planeswalkers, but it doesn't work out very much. If it continues not working out, I am likely going to replace it with something. I just don't know what exactly yet. And then, of course, we are running Farseek, and Farseek is fantastic because it gets any of our shocklands that we're running. If we need a certain color of shockland, we get it, and it's nice. It's nice. Karn's Temporal Sundering. We're playing a Time Walk effect, but this is one that has to be in a situation where I already have planeswalkers. This is not just a Time Walk for a Time Walk's sake. I'm doing this for flavor reasons. And, yeah, I get to take an extra turn and bounce a thing. But I don't use this very often because I don't need to. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. Once again, I do need some legendary creature or planeswalker out in order for this to work. But when it does, ooh-wee, it's crazy. Because you just get all your planeswalkers back, and shenanigans will ensue. Supreme Verdict. Some people who run creature decks do play counterspells. Supreme Verdict says, nah, miss me with that nonsense. And you just kill it. You just kill all the board. Unexpected results. I played this in every single card that it's legal, or every single deck that's legal in. If it has blue and green in the commander's color identity, I'm playing it. I'm playing this card in that deck. Why? Because it's fun and it's random. That's exactly why. I need no other reason than that. It is always fun and wild to try and Hail Mary with this card. I have absolutely gotten Nicol Bolases off this card. I've absolutely gotten Doubling Seasons off this card, where I needed it in order to immediately ultimate a Planeswalker. Unexpected Results does whiff a lot, because this is a 100-card format deck. But it is fun as hell. Urza's Ruinous Blast, another of the legendary sorceries. The reason I'm playing this, I'm testing it out for what it's worth. I haven't been able to cast this very many times. Not because like I haven't had a legendary in play, but more so because I haven't had it in my hand. But being able to exile non-land permanents that aren't legendary is really helpful, because it gets around graveyard shenanigans, which a lot of decks in EDH have the ability to do. And it focuses on pretty much not your creatures, right, or not your things. You do have a number of artifacts and enchantments that aren't legendary, but some of them are. I believe the Chainbill is, for example. But this is just a really nice way to get rid of things permanently. Rite of Replication. This is a card that is another placeholder. I believe I have 4 total placeholders in the deck. This should technically be Teferi's Protection, but that card costs way too much money for me to justify buying. I should say it costs way too much money for me to justify buying based on what it does. It's not a super integral part of the deck, and that's why I don't care too much about having it. But Rite of Replication is just a nice way to say, hey, you have a really cool creature. I want a lot of them. I would like 5 of those things, if you don't mind. And it's real spicy, real spicy. Moving on to our enchantments, of which we have 10. Darkstone Mutation, it gets rid of things, and it does it in such a way that your opponent is really, really annoyed. It gets rid of their abilities, it turns them into a 0/1, but they can still block. And it's indestructible, so, you know, it's not too bad. Doubling Season, the man, the myth, the legend. Yes, so it's just permanent, not other things. But yeah, Doubling Season, for the most part, is just to make our Planeswalkers do really stupid things. Grasp of Fate. Why am I running Grasp of Fate instead of something else? The reason for that is it's for each opponent, so this is a nice single target removal that targets many things, which is very nice. You do need to be a little careful, because sometimes if your opponents have a board wipe that does get rid of enchantments, then you're going to be kind of stowing away some things that you don't want to see later. That said, being able to just exile one thing from each player is very nice. And you have a kind of an excuse to do one from each, because it says, like, for each opponent exile up to 1. You can just be like, oh, I forgot it was up to 1. Not everyone sees that. Just remember that. Luminarch Ascension. This card is real good. And actually, what I'm going to do now, because it's getting a little far away from the screen, is I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to edit because I don't care. This is something I am trying out with my new webcam. Don't edit me. Luminarch Ascension is a dumb card, and it's a dumb card because if you're in a 4-player game, this gets activated fast, and being able to just put a 4/4 angel onto the field for 2 mana? Sign me up. Having Doubling Season out with this is, what's the word I'm looking for? Utterly insane. Maelstrom Nexus. A Cascade's fun mechanic, alright? I don't think I need to explain anything else. Cascade is fun. Oath of Ajani. The +1/+1 counter on our creatures doesn't really matter that much, but having our creature spells cost less is very, very nice. Whoops. Oath of Ajani. Once again, the first part doesn't actually matter that much, but having each of our Planeswalkers enter the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter sometimes means that we're going to be able to ult a turn early, or if we have Doubling Season now, they're going to be able to ult and still be alive instead of having to go to the grave, which is nice. Oath of Jace. This one is actually not bad because it's a +1. You draw 3 and then discard 2, so that's very nice. But being able to scry X, where X is the number of Planeswalkers you kill, even if this is just 1 per turn, that's still good. You know, people play Thassa for pretty much this exact reason, and having X be more than 1 is just gravy. It's very nice. Oath of Nyssa, probably the most integral oath in the deck, I think, because it allows us to just cast our Planeswalker spells and not care about the colors. For what it's worth, you are able to get a creature, land, or Planeswalker card from among them on her first ability, and usually you're going to get a land if it's early in the game, or if it's late in the game, you're going to get a Planeswalker. So being able to have this really flexible 1-drop card is very nice. And then, lastly, we do have Oath of Teferi. Notice I didn't play Teferi in the deck. Screw Teferi. But this allows you to reset a permanent. Usually that doesn't matter too much. In this deck at least, you could theoretically, if you've minus the Planeswalker, you can reset it so that it has extra loyalty. But for the most part, the first ability doesn't matter that much. But what does matter is that you can activate loyalty abilities in additional time. Now, let's say you have Oath of Teferi and the Temporal Teferi, and you've ulted Temporal Teferi. Every turn, including your opponents, you get to activate loyalty abilities twice. Let's say you also have the Chain Veil. You now get to activate them at least once, 3 times, and then twice on each of your opponent's turns. It's dumb. It's dumb. Getting to our lands, finally, we have 37 of them. And I'm going to try and go really quickly over them. We have a lot of cycles of lands, so it's not too much. We have 1 command tower. This just allows us to really play anything. I'm trying out Art of Araska because we really easy get Ascend, get the City's Blessing and EDH, and being able to just draw extra cards is nice. The thing is, I think we probably have enough draw that this probably should just be another similar to command style command tower card. And then, of course, we run one of each basic land, and the reason for this essentially is something like Back to Basics, something like, there's one that just destroys all non-lands and your opponent can search up. Ruination, I think is what it is. But also, it's just nice to be able to have basic lands if your opponents are playing things like Blood Moon. Not like a lot of your planeswalkers aren't going to be able to be cast through Blood Moon, but this does help you to still play something like Sylvan Reclamation or whatever in order to get rid of it. Then, of course, we're playing one of each Shockland. I'm not playing the regional duels because I don't think you need original duels. Paying 2 life when you're at 40 life doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt nearly as much as it does in 20 life formats, but it's just something that's nice to know. You can get the original dual lands if you really want, but it's not something that I think is necessary. And they are the Return to Ravnica ones because those are just the ones I had because I played a lot of Standard during Return to Ravnica. But it's something of note that, for what it's worth, in the earliest turns of the game, you're probably going to have the ability to just play these tapped if you have to. Next up, we have the Tri-lands from Alara and Tarkir. The Tri-lands are really nice because they just allow you so much variety in what you can tap. Of course, they enter tapped, but if you're playing in a specific type of playgroup, you're going to know whether or not you can actually run these cards. If your playgroup is very fast, you're going to want to cut these probably for the fetches. You could also cut them for different style of duels, but I found that these cards are totally fine. They're totally fine. Now we get to some other replacements, and this is a fetch land. That doesn't look right. Oh, it's another fetch, but no. The fetch lands are what are kind of in place of Mystic Gate and something Mire. I forgot what it is. The other blue Sunken Ruins, I think, is what it is. The reason for that is they just are more expensive than they're worth, and I already had the Shocklands in my land binder, so I didn't feel I needed to have that expense when I could just put the Shocklands in. I'm very curious to see if I actually end up preferring the Shocklands over the filter lands, but my hope is that I actually don't like the fetch lands as much as I just like the filter lands. That said, the fetch lands essentially can get pretty much any color combination in the deck, which is probably why they are just strictly better, but I have the filter lands and I really like them, so The filter lands are nice because if you do only have one color of a certain thing, you can double up. So if you need to be able to play like either Elspeth, for example, they cost 2 white. Maybe you only have one card that can make a white. So being able to filter that and have the ability to do that is very nice. But as I said, it's probably just correct to play the fetch lands. But yep, I'm just going to go through the filter lands and show these things. It's very nice. I don't know, there's something really aesthetic about them over the fetch lands. But and then Flooded Grove, and that is the deck. That is Cromat, and Cromat's down here. And I do hope that you all have enjoyed this video, and if you have, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, because that does help a bunch. Now, I do want to know what you guys think of this video, if there's anything in particular that you want to see done differently, because this is kind of a return to form. This is something that I used to do before I revived my channel. I think it was last April, around the 12th or 17th or something like that. This is what I used to do, and it was a ton of fun, and I hope that you guys do enjoy being able to see a real-life deck tech, because it's something that's fun. Being able to handle the cards and actually touch them and stuff is really nice. So I hope you guys do enjoy that, and please feel free to give me any constructive criticism. Don't be mean, please. But yeah, I don't know, it's really fun. I do have 3 other EDH decks in the queue. I'm probably going to do Gisa next, probably followed by Mael, and then end it off with 8.5 Tails. So I do hope that you guys look forward to that. And I don't plan on doing these super often. This is probably going to be maybe a once a month or once every 2 weeks type of thing. It's not going to be super often. So I would like to, of course, thank my lovely patrons, especially Salamander, Zaraga, and Croft, for their continued support. If you'd like to join them and support the channel, you'll find links to that in the description down below, along with links to the Discord server where you can chat about games and play games and all that sort of thing, as well as my Aether Hub account, where I host all of my deck lists, including the EDH decks that I'm going to be showing off. And I really do hope that you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you have, go ahead and tap that like button, add a subscription to your mana pool, cast a comment to the comment section down below, and pass the turn and the video to some of your friends. And until next time, all will be one.